we proudly present these miniature masterpieces of Judaic art that can be enjoyed at the Magnus Museum and in hundreds of collectors' homes throughout the United States. The history of the Jews in America begins with the Jews in Europe. It was through the efforts of Don Isaac Abravanel, distinguished biblical scholar and statesman, and Comptroller General Luis de Santander, that Christopher Columbus was able to hold his first meeting with King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella in 1486. Both men also helped to finance the historic voyage in 1492. And it was the Portuguese royal mathematician Abraham Zacuto who supplied Columbus with astronomical tables and navigational instruments. He set sail from Spain the day after the last of hundreds of thousands of Spanish Jews had departed. The interpreter that Columbus chose to accompany him was Luis de Torres. The only known Jew on the voyage also became the first European settler in the New World in Cuba. By the time of the Revolution, the Jewish population in America was about 2,500. Chaim Salomon, a young Polish refugee, made liberal advances of money without interest to such members of the Continental Congress as James Madison. Salomon invested heavily in Continental stocks and bonds, leaving his family virtually penniless when he died at the age of 45. The fully restored Touro Synagogue is the oldest Jewish house of worship in the United States. It was made a national shrine in 1947. Over 150 years earlier, George Washington, the newly elected President of the United States, wrote to the President of the congregation, "To bigotry give no sanction, to persecution no assistance." In late August 1776, when news came that the British were approaching New York, Rabbi Gershom Satius decided to close the Spanish-Portuguese synagogue. Many members of the congregation had been outspoken against the British, and their lives were in jeopardy. Rebecca Gratz was born while America was still fighting for its independence. Her most significant accomplishment was the founding of the Hebrew Sunday School Society, the first of its kind in America. Rebecca Gratz earned literary immortality when Sir Walter Scott modeled the Jewish heroine in Ivanhoe after her. Uriah P. Levy had to defend himself in a duel and endure 6 courts-martial, all instigated by anti-Semitism. Commodore Levy abolished flogging in the U.S. Navy. He is also remembered as the preserver of Monticello, Thomas Jefferson's home, which Levy renovated, restored, and willed to the people of the United States. In 1883, leading American artists and writers were invited to contribute works to raise funds to build the Statue of Liberty's pedestal. The highest prize was earned by a sonnet written by Emma Lazarus titled "The New Colossus." It included these immortal words, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." One of the most famous names in the world is Levi's, referring to the best-selling denim pants that were first manufactured by Levi Strauss during the California Gold Rush. His company has remained a family-run enterprise for over 125 years and is now the largest apparel manufacturer in the world. Around the turn of the century, Adolph Oakes took on the monumental task of reviving the financially ailing New York Times. He insisted on an impartial approach to the news and introduced the famous motto that still appears every day on this great newspaper's masthead, "All the news that's fit to print." Rabbi Judah L. Magnus was the founder and first chancellor of the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, where he guided this great institution for more than 20 years. While still in the United States, Magnus founded the Kehillah, a union of Jewish communal organizations in New York City. And in February 1912, he invited Henrietta Szold to hold a meeting in his study at Temple Emmanuel that led to the founding of Hadassah. Early in her career, Henrietta Szold translated and edited numerous scholarly works, including the monumental Jewish Encyclopedia. And much later, in Palestine, at the age of 73, Szold embarked on an important new project, Youth Aliyah, which rescued over 30,000 children from the Nazis. Like Magnus and Szold, Golda Meir was raised in the United States and later settled in Eretz Israel. After a distinguished career as Minister of Labor and as Foreign Minister, Golda became the fourth Prime Minister of Israel in 1969. In one of her many speeches before the United Nations, Golda Meir called out for all of those calling the Holy Land their home to unite and fight poverty, disease, and illiteracy. Albert Einstein developed the theory of relativity, contributed the quantum theory of matter, and did extensive study of the thermal properties of light. He was awarded the Nobel Prize in 1921 for his theoretical explanation of the photoelectric effect. He was a strong advocate of the United Nations in the hope that war could be abolished forever. Brandeis was the first Jewish jurist nominated to the U.S. Supreme Court by President Wilson in 1916. Brandeis crusaded on behalf of consumer protection and women's rights and against monopolistic business practices. Benjamin Cardozo joined Brandeis on the High Court after he was nominated by President Hoover in 1932. Cardozo was a bulwark in defense of New Deal legislation, ruling in favor of the constitutionality of important programs such as Social Security and old age pensions. Herbert H. Lehman had three distinguished careers as a public servant: Governor of New York from 1932 to 1941, Director General of the United Nations Relief and Rehabilitation Administration from 1943 through 1946, and at the age of 65, U.S. Senator for 6 years. George Gershwin was equally at home writing pop tunes, Broadway musicals, and serious music. He also pioneered in creating a genuine American folk opera, Porgy and Bess. Irving Berlin was an American institution when the country joined in celebrating his 100th birthday in 1988. Berlin wrote both the music and lyrics for over 1,500 songs, including America's unofficial national anthem, God Bless America. Goodman made history on August 21st, 1935 at the Palomar Ballroom when the crowd of jumping, cheering youngsters surrounded the bandstand during a swinging arrangement of Sugarfoot Stomp, and the swing era was born. And his 1938 Carnegie Hall Jazz Concert has earned an honored place in America's musical folklore. Isaac Stern's Carnegie Hall debut in 1943 also made history, and it was largely due to Stern's efforts that Carnegie Hall was saved from demolition in 1960. Stern took up the violin at the age of 8 and has gained recognition as the United States Musical Ambassador. Leonard Bernstein's musical genius was multifaceted: conductor, composer of Broadway musicals, symphonic works, motion picture scores, and inspired teacher. Bernstein's impressive accomplishments include West Side Story, Candide, Wonderful Town, and of course, his famous televised Young People's Concerts. In 1927, there were over 100,000 cases of diphtheria recorded in the United States. Over the next 5 years, a massive campaign coordinated by Dr. Bella Schick virtually eliminated the dreaded disease. The lives of millions of children around the world were saved as a result of the Schick test and later by the Salk vaccine. Jonas Salk developed the first vaccine against polio. In 1954, the Salk vaccine became the first effective weapon against the crippling disease. The Salk Institute in La Jolla, California, is now one of the world's major independent centers of biological research. Isaac Bashevis Singer received the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1978. All of his writings are in Yiddish, though most have been translated into English. His books have twice won the National Book Award and have often found their way into the bestseller lists. Baseball great Hank Greenberg won the Most Valuable Player award twice, in 1935 as first baseman and 5 years later as left fielder. After returning from active duty in World War II, Greenberg hit a grand slam home run in the last inning, winning the pennant for the Detroit Tigers. He was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1956. Ernestine Rose, pioneering fighter for human rights, a charismatic speaker, she was instrumental in the passage of a married women's property bill in New York before the Civil War.
Elie Wiesel miraculously survived both Auschwitz and Buchenwald to tell the world about the horrors of the Holocaust in over 24 semi-autobiographical novels, plays, and essays. When he received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1986, Wiesel said, "I have tried to keep memory alive, because if we forget, we are guilty. We are all accomplices." Houdini said that he had conquered fire, water, earth, and air. Fire, when he leaped handcuffed into boiling beer. Water, when he was sealed in a cage and lowered into icy rivers. Earth, when he was buried alive in a coffin. And air, when he piloted the first airplane over Australia in 1910. Houdini was the world's highest paid and most popular performer before his untimely death on Halloween in 1926. Barbra Streisand is the only artist ever to have won Oscar, Tony, Emmy, Grammy, and Golden Globe awards. She became a star in 1964, portraying Fanny Brice in Funny Girl. Ms. Streisand later produced, co-authored, directed, and starred in Isaac Bashevis Singer's Yentl. Her over 65 gold and platinum albums are more than any other vocalist has ever achieved.
You've got me to turn to with the songs that I sing and the magic they bring. They've helped you be strong.